he rode into Jerusalem alone. There were people everywhere, lining the streets, standing on top of the buildings, calling out to him, "Welcome, Son of David. Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord." They shouted his name, threw their cloaks upon the road, waved palm branches in the air, and welcomed him as their king, the Messiah. He was surrounded by hundreds, maybe thousands of people, and yet he never felt so alone. Everything he had taught, all the healings he had done, the demons he had exorcised, all the miracles he had wrought, everything was just the prologue for what was to happen in Jerusalem, what he was about to do. And he knew and had known for a long time this was coming. He knew that when the end would come, he would be alone. And his heart ached as he rode into Jerusalem that day. His heart ached for his disciples, for his mother, for his friends. He had come to terms with what was about to happen and what he was about to go through a long time ago. But his heart now ached for what they were about to go through. For he knew that the jubilant shouts of "Hosanna, Son of David," would soon be replaced with screams of "Crucify him." And the clip-clop sound of the donkey that carried him into the city would soon be replaced by the scraping sound of the cross he would carry out of the city. He had tried to tell them all, he had tried to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer, that this was his fate, this was his purpose. But they would not listen. And as his disciples reveled in the adoration of the crowd, as they held their heads high to be one of Jesus' inner circle, as they smiled and waved at the people of Jerusalem, as they lined the streets in jubilant welcome, Jesus realized how truly alone he was, and he suffered in silence. Suffering in silence is a very human experience. I think we have all had times in our lives we can look back at, times we may be going through now, where we suffer in silence. At the death of a loved one, when we can feel so alone. With sickness, as we sit in the doctor's office waiting for the results of the biopsy, or waiting for the doctor to call, we can feel so alone. With mental illness, depression, or anxiety, when the world seems black everywhere we look, and there seems no escape, and we can feel so alone. For those whose loved ones suffer with dementia or Alzheimer's disease, who've forgotten who they are, and that can feel so alone. For those that are in relationships that are all anything but healthy, that are abusive, and they walk through their day smiling, pretending that everything is okay, and it's not, and they feel so alone. For those who suffer financial hardship others do not see, and they cannot allow them to see it for their pride, and they suffer in silence, feeling so alone. Suffering in silence is something that we all as human beings experience. And there's an old adage that goes, God never gives you something you can't handle. I don't think that's right. I don't think it's right for two reasons. Number one, I don't think God gives it to you. I don't think God inflicts death and punishment and sickness. That's not the God I know. That is not the loving, caring God I know. And furthermore, I can tell you from my own life, I've had to face things that, you know what? I really couldn't handle. And I think all of us in our lives can look back at those times and say, there are times when I just could not handle that. Times that want to break you. And yet, my brothers and sisters, God may not give us these things. God may not give us things we can't handle, but what God does is God gave us Jesus, who knows how we feel. God gave us Jesus, who has walked the road of silent suffering. God gave us Jesus, who knows what it is to feel alone. And God has given us Jesus, who comes up alongside us in our need, in our despair, in that dark place. And Jesus says, let me help you carry this cross. Jesus says, I have a strong shoulder. Let me help you carry this. I grew up in the United Methodist Church, and Palm Sunday in the Episcopal Church is always a little bit of a liturgical whiplash for me. I grew up in a church where it was Palm Sunday all day. It was glory, laud, and honor. It was happy, happy, happy. It was victory. We did not read the Passion Gospel on the day, and yet in this tradition we do. And I have come to appreciate that because of what Palm Sunday means. What I believe Palm Sunday means is not only can Jesus identify with our suffering, not only can Jesus identify in our silent suffering and what it feels like to be alone in those dark moments in our lives, but the story is not yet finished. We only know so much. And there's an entire chapter still being written. You see, I believe whatever has happened to us, whatever is going on in our lives right now, whatever battle we face, whatever struggle we have, whatever wounds we carry, I believe God can take those and God can transform those into powerfully good things. I think of Joseph. Joseph, whose brother sold him into slavery, thinking we've got to get rid of this kid. He's annoying. Sold him into slavery into Egypt, thinking he's gone. Then a famine hits. And through dreams, Joseph is able to save Egypt from famine and by extension, his own family. And Joseph tells his brothers when they are reunited, what you meant for evil, God has turned for good. And I believe in your life and in my life, those things that have been evil that have happened to us or those struggles that we have had to endure, God can take that time and redeem it and turn it into good. Because I believe God can redeem all time. My brothers and sisters, this Palm Sunday, we stand on the threshold of Holy Week. We walk with Jesus down the road to Calvary, to his crucifixion, and we stand there as part of the crowd, wondering what good can come of this, what good can come of this pain, this suffering, this mocking, this debasement, this inhumanity. What good can come of it? Luckily, the story is not over. It is still being written. My brothers and sisters, no matter what you're facing or what you have faced, let Jesus help take up that cross and carry it. For that was his purpose. He came for you and for me so that we never have to carry it alone.